Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to recommend you a selection of queer romances that I've read recently in the past year or so and really enjoyed. For your convenience, I'm going to tell you which tropes they have, because a lot of people choose romances by the specific tropes that they have. If you have not seen my previous videos with a similar structure, I'm going to link them down below. If you just want more queer romances in your life, you have to check them out as well. Without further ado, let's just start with those recommendations. The first trope is the soulmate trope, and this pick is gonna be a bit of a spoiler because I am filming a whole reading vlog about this series. The book that I want to recommend you is Wolfsong by 𝕊𝕊𝕀𝔸𝕃. Now, we all love 𝕊𝕊𝕀𝕃 and we all read The House on the Cerulean Sea. Wolfsong is definitely not The House on the Cerulean Sea. It's an adult paranormal romance, and it has all the elements that make it an adult paranormal romance. So, the spoiler is that I loved this book. It's a very engaging, verging on addicting type of book about a journey of this man named Ox from childhood to adulthood. As a child, he was abandoned by his father, who was verbally abusive and who's put a lot of negative thinking that Ox is carrying through his life. He's confused about his father leaving and he blames himself for it. A lot of his thinking at that point is that he has to be the adult now and carry the weight that his father carried for his mom. Time passes, Ox grows a little, and he meets a boy named Joe, whose family just moved into a house down the road that has been empty for a very long time. Joe is a weird little dude, and he's obsessed with Ox immediately. He encourages Ox to meet his family. His family is kind of weird as well, but eventually it is revealed to him that they are a pack of werewolves. They are very grateful to him and treat him like family because he performed a miracle. Joe wasn't speaking for a bunch of years because of a trauma that he experienced as a child, and somehow Ox broke the spell. Now, this is very much a romance. The romance is between Joe and Ox. They are children when the novel starts. It's a romance that builds up very slowly. It's a childhood friends to lovers. It's a soulmate type of romance. Joe's wolf immediately recognizes Ox as his future mate, so that's why he becomes obsessed with him and wants to spend so much time with him immediately. It's very angsty and dark. There are a lot of twists, but when I say dark, keep in mind that it is very much a found family story as well. It has its sweet, warm moments, and it bought me over very quickly. I enjoyed the slow progression of the romance and how it spanned so many years, how the friendship that they developed grew and changed over the years. I've been hesitant about this book for a long while because the way people described it felt like it's going to be so tragic, dramatic, and dark. It has its dark moments, but it's also very sweet at time and also very funny at time. It's very much a book that contains everything, and I really loved it. The next trope is forced proximity, which is one of my favorites, and I want to recommend a book that I have not seen anyone talking about. It's Alone by A.J. Noyes, and it's an FF romance that was so fascinating. The story is about Celeste, who had a pretty traumatic childhood. Her mom was abusing drugs and alcohol and was very abusive to her and her younger sister. Later, her younger sister also became an addict and also died. So Celeste doesn't really have any close relatives in the world. She's haunted by the members of her family, and she's never had a goal in her life until she becomes a subject in a very odd experiment. She's asked to live for 4 years in total isolation and to be observed. The experiment is to figure out if the astronauts would be able to stay on a planet or on a station for a long while on their own and not go completely bananas. So Celeste agrees to take part in the experiment because she is alone in the world already and she needs the money that this experiment is going to pay. The experiment is very gruesome. She is fully equipped with everything that she needs, and the observers are sending her food and supplies, but she is not exposed to the images of humans. She is not allowed to hear human voices, and the only form of communication with the outer world is through a very ascetic chat with her observers. And it all goes fairly smoothly until 3 years into the experiment, she accidentally shots a woman outside of her house that has been hiking the woods and got lost. Celeste takes her in and she is faced with a Sophie's choice to tell her observers that she now has a person in the house that basically contaminated the whole experience, or to keep her a secret and make her stay in the house because she honestly would actually love the company. This book is weirdly dark. It's a romance between Olivia and Celeste. There's two women that are stuck in the house together. And the point of view of Celeste is incredibly fascinating. I love these kinds of plots, and I would have read this book regardless of it being a romance or not. I think the romance element just added some interesting spice to the story. I have not read anything like it, and seeing Celeste communicate with a person that she finds attractive for a mix of reasons, because Olivia is attractive, but also because Celeste has been alone in a remote location for such a long while, was such an interesting experience. There were so many layers to the story. I found it very, very interesting and very unusual for an FF romance. The next recommendation is for the lovers of boss/personal assistant type of romances. I really love this one and had a good luck with this order in general. It's going public by Hudson. It's an romance about a man named Raymond, who's known in the company that he works in for being able to find dirt on anyone. His job is finding dirt on their competitors and on their future partners. And it's a romance between him and his personal assistant named Elwyn. Elwyn has been with Raymond for a long while now. He's been in love with him for a long while, and Raymond never noticed until something snapped and he did. This romance really surprised me because I thought it's gonna be just this, a personal assistant who has a crush on his boss, and his boss who sleeps around with everyone and who's not noticing him, but then suddenly starts paying attention. It's not just that. This romance has so many moving parts. I really loved it. It is opposites attract. They're from very different classes. Raymond is from a rich family that didn't give a shit about him, and Elwyn is from a large family where he has to play part of a third parent for his siblings, and they're both jealous of each other's backgrounds for different reasons. It also has a suspense element that I didn't expect because Raymond and Elwyn are sent to a factory their company recently purchased, and they have to figure out what's wrong with it because something is shady, and indeed it is. Something big is happening there. I really love this romance. I love the first book in the series as well, and I highly recommend it. A book that you have to read if you're looking for a very spicy age gap FF romance is Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wilsner. I'm obsessed with this book. It's one of the sexiest FF romances that I've ever read, and it's about a girl named Cassie who hooks up with an older woman in the bar to later figure out that this woman is her best friend's mom. I'm still shooketh by this summary, and the book doesn't disappoint. It's so hot. Some scenes put a blush on my face, and I rarely blush when I read books. After all, no one's watching me to judge me, but still, I was like a ripe tomato throughout the majority of this book. Erin and Cassie realize that they have to end it or they will hurt people around them, but they just can't because the chemistry between them is through the roof. As the novel progresses, they also discover that they would actually be good partners for each other, and they share a lot of similar values and interests. But coming clean and telling their loved ones that they are in a relationship has so many consequences that they are faced with an impossible choice. I was obsessed with this book when I was reading it, and I'm not even a fan of age gap in romances, but it was written so well and so believably that I could not ship that. And at the same time, I think, unlike many other romance authors, Meryl Wilsner tackled what this age gap would mean for this couple and the challenges and issues they would face. Because often this trope seems to be included in romances for the kinky reasons, not for the complicating the relationship reasons. And in reality, it is a complication. And I love that the characters faced that. I really enjoyed the story. And if you're looking for something smutty, something a little bit scandalous, I do recommend. For assassin/target romance, any hired gun, mafia type of romances, I want to recommend Requiem for Immortals by Lee Winter. You know that I'm obsessed with this book. You know that I gave it 5 stars, that I'm in love with it, that I cannot stop thinking about it, that it's the best romance ever in my book. I'm convinced that this book was written for me only, but I'm willing to share. Lee Winter is a genius. She has done such a great job with the story. It's not rushing anywhere, it's slow burn. The tension is so high throughout the whole story. The stoic Winter Queen character melted so well, but without losing her dignity, and I love that. So the story is about a woman with a code name Requiem. Her day job is a classical musician, and her night job is murdering people. She is an assassin for an Australian gang, and she is hired by a mysterious person to kill a woman named Erin. Now, that is something that she does as a job. It's not unfamiliar for her. It's not something that she's scared to do or is hesitant about, but Erin doesn't seem to be like her other targets, and she is deeply fascinated by her. She doesn't understand what Erin has done in the past and to whom to require such an extreme reaction. So she decides to get to know Erin better, which is her first and only mistake, because she realizes that they have a lot in common, and that she actually, for the first time ever, starts falling in love with someone and is faced with a choice that is paramount for her person: to continue to be a hired gun and to kill Erin, or to spare Erin and maybe even be with her. Now, Requiem is a little shit. It's like being in the head of Hannibal from NBC Hannibal. She's overconfident, aloof, and doesn't love anybody but herself, which is something that she's incredibly proud of. It's very important for her to not feel anything for anybody. And then she meets this woman, Erin, that melts her, and I'm obsessed with this dynamic. I love how much Requiem was struggling and fighting against it. I love the twists of the plot, but the main thing about it obviously is how tension-filled the whole dynamic is. If you love Killing Eve, you're definitely going to enjoy this. It is just as torturous and slow burn, and it is about 2 people that want the same thing but can't allow themselves to fall into that and to follow their feelings. It's dangerous, it's hot, and I'm obsessed with it. The last combination of tropes is stoic hero opposites attract, grumpy/sunshine. It's the type of dynamic that I personally enjoy, and the book that I'm going to recommend is Romantasy, which is a mix of romance and fantasy. A Marvellous Light by Freya Marske, a book that I recently read, and if you watch my vlogs, you know that I really loved it. It's a really fun story. It has a really cool world building. I love a regular world with a little bit of magic or a magical society. I think it's just easier to understand, and you start enjoying the story earlier because understanding the world doesn't take a lot of your time. It's a story about a man named Roman who's trying to save his family's estate. His parents squandered all their fortune away, and now he's forced to take a job from his enemy. He doesn't really know what this job entails. It seems like a boring office job, but when he comes into the office, he is ambushed by odd people whose faces he cannot see because magic, and who ask him a lot of weird questions that he doesn't understand. They also curse him, and he has no means to break it because he doesn't know that magic exists. It's his first time encountering it. The job actually is of a human liaison to magicians. He has to report things that seem magical to magicians so they would deal with them, and he doesn't know the first thing about it. Plus, the man that previously held his position mysteriously disappeared. A man named Edwin, his counterpart that he has to report to, is trying to figure out what happened to the dude prior to him, and because he pities Robin, decides to help him with the curse. It's a very fun adventure story with a lovable cast of characters, specifically this two men and a few of their friends that I highly recommend. I really enjoyed the magic in this world. It was easy to understand, and it was wondrous. And the relationship between Edwin and Robin was so precious, especially because of Edwin's childhood and how little he thinks of himself and how much he's trying to compensate for his inability to do difficult magical spells. I loved how vulnerable they were with each other. I really enjoyed this. It was such a good reading experience, and I highly recommend it. These are all the romances that I recently read and loved, and that I want to pass on to you. In the comments down below, you can always leave some queer romance recs for me, because I always am looking for more. On this note, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful, and I will see you with another video soon. But until then,